Hey everyone, we are back again with another Dragonheir video, and in this video we'll be going over my Ertu team showcase. So for those of you struggling at this boss, there are like a lot of different mechanics to be wary of. I explained it briefly in my previous review video on the Drizzit and the overall event, but you can do 10 million as F2P if you are in an earlier server. If you are in a later day server, your server is like a week old or whatever, although there's no limitation of gear, but the problem is that in this particular run, what you will be missing out in an early day server is the affinity bonus. And as you can see, like, even though I don't need to level up my champions, I don't need to have them geared, as an early day server, you will be missing out on this affinity bonus, and that really actually helps you a lot. Additionally, if you're on an additional server, on a new server, you may not have the complete roster. You will be missing out on certain champions. You may not have the scrolls for your teams. So there are a lot of different ifs and buts in these conditions. And there are a lot of good F2P teams who have been able, with epics only, they have been able to get 10 million and above. And there are quite a lot of them. So for me to showcase all of them, it would take a lot of time. Just make sure to go down to the Dragonheir main official Discord. Currently there's a Ertu DPS event going on, and you can check the free-to-play options that you will need. Some of the notable teams that have been able to do it is the Radiance team that I know of, which includes Garius, Catherine, and some of the DPS over here, Tatlin, and there are a couple more that are missing here, but there are a lot of options that you can do. The Wild team also can do it, which has Adolphus as your support unit. You have Isolde, who's also pretty good. You have Karaman, you have Tonalan, you have Refi. She used to be called Foley. I don't know why they changed their name, but there are a lot of different options that are able to do 10 million plus. You just have to not be on a newer server. You need to have this affinity bonus, and you need to have some scrolls. But 5 million without any stuff, you should be able to get between 1.5 and 5 million, around that mark. You should be able to get regardless. But this time I'm going to be showcasing my team. So what I have in my team is going to be Acelia, Telendor, Laurentiel, Alton, and Filter. So it's a very DPS heavy comp, and I'm not having any attack down on the boss as well. So the idea is that if I can cleanse the debuffs that the boss places, I don't need to worry about it. And additionally, having a very DPS heavy team also prevents me from the boss's minions, who you typically stun and do a lot of damage to you. But if you build a very DPS heavy team and have like 1 or 2 healers only, then you have a much higher chance of success in doing high damage, because AoE damage is going to be really helpful when the boss spawns his minions. You want to take them down as soon as possible instead of wasting another slot for somebody like who's providing like a control immunity or some sort of a control debuff on the minions. Now, since there's no attack down, you might be thinking like the team might die quickly, and there is a chance. The problem is that, so this ultimate recharge time is 18.87, right? But the boss's ultimate actually refreshes much faster. So recharge time 6, 6, and then 6. So it's basically a 18-second total interval, which is actually a bit of a problem, because you cannot really match the boss's speed for his recharge times, right? And even with this one, which is fully inspired, has a 30 skill haste being applied to her, it's still over 18, right? So what generally happens, the reason that I can die is like I have to sometimes manual the ultimate of my Acelia to have the debuff immunity on the second skill of the boss. And Telendor is amazing. He's going to be doing this rally he's going to be doing this moonlight beams on the enemy, and it also, when the minions spawn, it's way that his moonlight beams are going to kill the boss's minions very quickly. And I have Filter here. Ideally he could be here as well, but I prefer it to be here. It doesn't really matter, but the boss's minions spawn right here, right? So I want one minion to be taken care of by him, and the uh, other minion is taken care of by my Telendor. Lorenthil is just here to provide his attack up, and I'll need to manual Filter's ultimate just because I don't really have this set up properly, because he gets 35% increase in his ultimate energy when he has a successful rally, so he gets out of sync with Lorenthil. Alton is a pretty amazing. He also gets skill haste from his inspiration, which I don't know why he does that. He typically doesn't need it, and the stats doesn't make sense either. Like, it should be like 100% crit. So I'm guessing it's the inspiration that is being added that is affecting that. Like this one, I don't know why it's 120. I think they apply like a standard for everybody, because he has 20% base crit rate. He has 10% base crit rate. Yeah, same with him. He has a 20% base crit rate. So it's really bizarre, like how they have applied like extra crits for some reason. It's not like the boss has this option to, take less crits. So as you can see, like I have my Acelia ultimate cancelled out right now. It's because the first time I'm not going to be doing her ultimate at all. And you also don't have access to artifacts in this fight. So any defense down or defense up or any particular artifact that boosts damage is not going to be there. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to be timing her right now. And this is going to set it up for me so that till about like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, I'll be good. I don't have to manual her ultimate anymore. And you can see that the boss's minions just completely die right off the bat whenever they're spawned. And yeah, this team should do typically over 100 million, but I'm curious to see how much it will do today. For those of you wondering like why Flora is not there, as she's basically the queen of PvE, the reason being that Flora is a single target champion, right? And derivative damage, the way they have set it up, the stats and everything, is not that high. Like, she's still going to do a decent amount of damage, but it's nowhere near. And since you don't have access to artifacts are not being applied. So even if you have an exclusive artifact for Flora, you're not getting the use of her. So that's why she's not going to be doing as much damage as something like, which is like a plain vanilla DPS comp, which is going to be Rally. And Rally beats out Lightning in this team as well, because Lightning is also single target, right? And you don't, even if I have Acelia in there, because Lightning and Radiance are paired together this season, it's not going to be as good as Radiance, simply because of the AoE capability that this team has. And if you think about it, like, there's no, like, the proper damage dealers for like Tharviol, you have Garrett, you have Nazjinka. Again, they are much better when they have artifacts. The reason that this team does better than the Lightning team is twofold. So first of all, like, if you don't have Telendor's artifact, you can pretty much use Lorenthil, who will provide Rally. And what his artifact generally does is that it increases the amount of moonbeams and it removes the condition of Rally from his ultimate. So that's what makes it really, really powerful, his ultimate, when it's under his artifact, where you don't need Lorenthil at all. But since we don't have the access to the artifact, we can just use the Rally from Lorenthil and make it so that kind of replicate that artifact effect. That's why this team does so much damage. Whereas in Nazjinka has her own artifact, which gives her a lot of different passives, and it's not going to be applied through any other champion, right? That artifact condition cannot be replicated. Same with Flora. Flora, she basically ignores the wild check and continues to attack. You can probably introduce Alfie or somebody who has ability to do a very high amount of wild checks, like very high chance of wild check, then it can work pretty good. But yeah, it's not worth it. That's why like Rally will just melt this boss. So I'm pretty sure this is close to like the highest damage that you can do on this boss. I haven't seen anything higher, but if you have, do let me know in the comments below. But also, like, the way the event was supposed to set up, I was actually, the problem again comes back to Drizzit, right? Like, Drizzit was supposed to do higher damage to this boss, but yeah, the amount of damage that the Frost team actually does, especially because of their reliance on Frost itself, makes it very bad compared to other elements in this game. especially for PvE. For PvP, they're probably one of the best teams for Frost. But yeah, Rally just beats them out completely in this type of fight where you want like very DPS heavy damage dealers. And if you think about it, like the highest multipliers on champions satisfying the condition is Rally, right? So Filto has a 1800% multiplier on his ultimate. That is a 3-tile range full nuke. And then Telendor has, I think if it hits all 12, I don't think to all 12 can hit because there's a condition for like per single target damage. So I think it's like up to 6 that can hit one particular target. And yeah, it's also pretty high multiplier. Whereas if you think about like Frost, right? Yeah, they added like an ignore defense mechanic. Drizzit ignores 15% of the defense. We have Oster who ignores quite a high percentage of defense. I think it's 100% on his battle skill or something like that. And even his passive is pretty good to have, where he's like attacking constantly. Okay, so I need to reset the Acelia ultimate now. So you saw like she's became now slower. We set her ultimate to be right about here, but yeah, this is the problem. Like with the 18-second boss, you can't really fully control it. And yeah, I wish it was 20 seconds so it will be like easier to control. You can just set them off and be done with it. But yeah, as I was saying, like like if you look at the Frost units, right, like they don't really, the benefit of a Frost is very limited. Like there's Oster who really benefits it. Like there's small benefits, but it's not as broken as something like, when Rally champions have Rally on them, they're like completely doing like nutty amount of damage, right? Like Filto without his ultimate is only doing like 600% damage. It's like very basic amount of damage that he does. But with Rally on it, it hits 3 times, right? That's 1800%. So you cannot really expect like a 15% defense ignore or like a 50% even defense ignore to counter that. Same with like even Alton. Alton is going to do 12 hits or something like that with Rally on. And each of these conditions, like with Wild, it's like a straight up boost, right? Like it's like 130% of the damage is going to be there with a successful Wild check. You have poisons who really benefit from poison, but poison is mostly reliant on like derivative damage to do, top amount of damage. But it's not going to be like a very DPS heavy comp. So we can ignore pretty much of that. Like now Zinka and friends, I'll call them, they rely pretty much on attack speed, right? Like the higher the attack speed, the more amount of damage that you're gonna do. Whereas Frost is just very weak in general, in PvE especially. Like PvP, you can get away with a lot of different things, especially if you have Havita. But Frost doesn't really get a benefit. Like, yeah, Oster has his passive where he's gonna get more and more ultimate energy. But outside of that, like, the amount of damage that you should be able to pump out, especially because you're bringing in a debuffer, is not just there, right? So that's why even like Drizzit being already like a subpar DPS unit, it's like a mediocre DPS unit. It's nothing too special about him. He's a melee first of all, so that already puts him way behind, right? But even in Vortex or anything like that, nobody's gonna use it because other elements just completely beat out everything else in the game, right? So that's the problem with Frost in general. So if they wanted to make him a Frost element hero, I would have assumed that, okay, they're thinking more of PvP. And if they are thinking of PvP and having a melee unit, you could make him a jumper. You could make him, it would be much more satisfying. I mean, he has a Panther. Why can't the Panther jump, right? So there's obviously a lot of different turmoils to like introducing a Frost element hero. I mean, I'm sure like it will help you out, beat out like certain content with pillars or things like that. But I don't really qualify pillars as one small area to be very, very big in the game anyways, right? I mean, yeah, you will beat out pillars with, I'm pretty sure like there are like some really good teams out there without Drizzit too that can beat out pillars. So there are a lot of different factors surrounding it, and next season we are going to most likely see Frost being paired with Radiance, and Radiance has some of the best supports. They have some of the best DPS units in the game. So yeah, I mean, I really don't get it. Like they can buff him up. They did buff him up with a bit more HP, and they increased the survivability on his Panther, which is good by itself. But the problem really comes, and this is the reason that I generally don't even use necrotic units, is that when you have single target battle skills that heal or shield or whatever, they generally go on the summons, right? And it's very irritating because you don't really care about the summon, you care about the champion. And with Drizzit, it's pretty much the same. So I used Drizzit in PvP with, El Cibre, and the shield was constantly going on his Panther, and it was annoying because I want it to go on Drizzit so he's saved, right? The Panther is not going to ultimate by himself. It's the Drizzit who's going to ultimate. So it's those kind of things that become really annoying, and it's just hard to find a balance where you want to introduce a champion to an elemental affinity that is mostly focused on PvP. So I don't think making him just a jumper would have changed the balance of the game in any way. Like, we already have Trollgar as jumper in that affinity, so it's not like really a big deal if they introduced him as a jumper. If they introduced him, to do like several different things, like then it would be broken. But I don't think like by himself he's a broken unit or anything. He cannot, like, for a frost up applications, there are better units. There are like Losenia is much better. Melee frost units don't really exist outside of Trollgar, who is a jumper, by the way. So if you're struggling against a Havita, bring a Trollgar. He can pretty much nuke her. So all these factors like really play a big role in determining the, what kind of champion is going to be used for. And yeah, like I said, like I just don't count like, just a pillars as very niche content to begin with, as like an area for you to justify Drizzit. But going back to the team, I think we are close to 100 million. This is looking actually to be one of the best scores that I've done with this team. And the event itself, if we have to talk about, it's pretty good. Like, I like the event in general. I just don't like the champion that much, for the reason that I stated earlier as well. The event itself is pretty nice, especially the Ertu fight. I mean, you can test out so many different teams. Like, you can spend a lot of time just doing this team, this boss, because you can test out your DPS units. There are some problems with this setup too. Like, they have Sigrid, for example, built as a debuffer. There's Usha, who doesn't have 100% crit rate. So there are like nuances that, yeah, you have to get through it. But overall, the Ertu fight is by far the best thing that we've had in this game for a long time. Like, I haven't been this excited for the game for a long period of time besides the Ertu fight. Like, fighting those Chaos Shadows, I wish it was similar to this thing. There would be different sort of like actual bosses instead of us fighting champions over and over. But yeah, this event is like amazing. Even though it's very relatively F2P too, because you don't have to worry about like building champions. It eliminates the need of like, you needing like, to spend like 15 hours in just Goblin. So overall, the event has been actually a success. It's just that, yeah, there's going to be a backlash with it whenever there's going to be a new champion. I may not like it, you may not like it, some people may really like it. It depends on individual perspective of where your account is and what you're looking for in general. But as an event, this has been actually a good event. There are obviously things that they could have changed. They could have made it much better. But I really don't think that, this is kind of like a niche for them as well. This is the first event, so I'm hoping this is going to be first of many D&D or like other collab events that we're going to have in the future. And we continue to see the improvements that we have seen in this event itself. But that being said, like, I think we reached about 113 million. So we were, I think, 400 short of 114. But this has been my best score so far. I think my previous best was 111.9. So that's pretty good. But yeah, this event, I'm going to save this result. This is a very good way. I wish I could spend more time on this, but we have the otherworldly exploration going on as well, which takes a lot of time. Like, I have reached around like 225k points, and this thing will keep refreshing. Like, so I've reached 230, then it's gonna start from 235 onwards. So I have to see like where does it actually end. But this takes forever for me to do as well, because you have to wait for the bosses to spawn. But this event is like, if you have nothing to do, like you can just go in and see like, okay, I'm planning to build out this team. Of course, just be mindful of like, you know, some of these champions not being built as you would have liked, right? Like, so for example, if we go even for like Thea, she's built out for accuracy. She's a very good damage dealer actually. This ultimate actually has a 850% attack. So yeah, just keep in mind like Questa as well. She's amazing damage dealer, but yeah, they've built her out for like as a debuffer support unit. So whoever has support is considered like a support. Like that's how they have built these units. So just be wary of that when you are trying to test out different teams. But it's a very good way for you to like understand like team compositions, what can do better, what cannot do better, finding out some amazing rares and some amazing like I've been using like these guys, Yagnats, and I think this one is 3 arrows. No, there's another one which does 3 arrows. So this one is pretty good as well for attack speed up. Like you get to test out a lot of different teams. I've been doing some like dauntless testing just to see like, you know, which one should I use for my chaos shadows. And it's a very good event in general. And if you need teams for free to play, there are several that are posted in the main Dragonheir Discord. You just have to go to the event Ertu DPS event channel, and that's where you will find a lot of different F2P teams, and you can pretty much select what you want to select, right? What actually team what team is more relevant to your account basically. But yeah, just keep in mind that this affinity bonus is going to be different for everybody. So if you don't have the exact same damage, it might be because of that, or some RNG in general. But that's pretty much it for today, guys. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the Ertu event? I personally really like this event. This is the kind of thing that I want in this game much more of, instead of fighting like Chaos Shadows and whatever we had for the UTR event, the Continental Challenges. And if you see your name below, congratulations, you won the giveaway from last video. Do message me on Discord to claim your rewards. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.